when we move through this eclipse portal, you become the alchemist. And you're going to be able to use this astrology and your own astrology with the chaos that's around you to create what you want. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the channel. This is Dr. Danny, physician, astrologer. Today, we're going to talk about the real sky and the coming solar eclipse on February 17th of 2026. This is a new moon, just like all the other new moons that we read, but this one is special because it is forming a solar eclipse. And we'll talk about that eclipse before we get into the energy as well. I'm calling this moon the Alchemist Moon. And the reason is because the last lunar cycle we had was a lot of resets. It was one reset right after the other. It was Venus and Sun, Mercury and Sun, Mars and Sun. And we found ourselves riding this huge wave of resets. There's a rumbling under the surface of things changing. And certainly we've had quite a bit of crazy, amazing, weird, wild news come out. And I certainly hope you guys are spending your attention on things that nourish your soul. Because as much as we'd like to have, justice and fairness, I don't know that that's going to happen. Because you see, when things like this come out, it creates a lot of chaos. And you, me, all of us listening to this message are chaos magicians. We are alchemists. We can take things from the world and in our own world and turn them into something better for ourselves. And I believe that this moon is allowing us to do that. There's a couple squares, but we're going to get through it all. Most of it is sextiles. And I think if we look at the energy this way, we're going to have a much better time of it with the coming lunar eclipse and the lunations following that. So the announcements I have are interspersed throughout the presentation. I'm just going to go right to the sky. We're going to look at where the sun and the moon are, where they've been, what that means. And then we will dive into a little bit of eclipse energy, what eclipses are, why we consider them special. And then we'll talk about the astrology in the chart. We'll go aspect by aspect, and then I'll take you by your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, but you know your sun sign or you identify with a certain planet, whatever constellation that you identify with is fine. This should work for you. There are other ways to find your ascendant in your birth time if you don't know that, and we'll talk about a couple of those. So without further ado, I'll share my screen. We'll get into it. All right, friends, here we are. This is the date of the coming new moon and solar eclipse. And for this one in particular, the moon is conjunct the sun, as with every new moon. But the North Lunar Node, or Rahu, is also right here. Actually, it's about 9 degrees away. We also see that Venus and Mercury are here. Mercury is just about to enter Pisces, or did enter Pisces, right at the very last degree. We'll look at a chart, but Venus is certainly in Aquarius, and then Mars is still in Capricorn, and so is Pluto. And when I mentioned that we had to go through a whole lot of resets, I was referring to the last full moon that we had. There's Pluto. I just wanted you all to see that. And so what I'd like to do is go back in time just day by day and just show you how the last lunar cycle developed. And we called this moon the sovereign moon. And the whole energy was being present and aware, yet being unaffected, so that we could respond instead of react. And that lesson comes from the energy of Mars. But here we go. Right here around the 18th was the last new moon. So you see it's Sun, Mercury, Moon, Venus, Mars, Pluto, all of it, all right there. And over the last 29 days, everything has moved through the constellation of Capricorn. The sun enters Aquarius, not on the 21st of January, but on the 14th of February, right here. And you can see how everything's spreading out. So all the planets were collected in that one spot for an incident, a portal, a moment where cycles reset. And now they are separating and continuing with their normal cycles. And we continue to observe them. This is a solar eclipse. We're not actually going to see this eclipse. This is southern hemisphere, southern pole eclipse, but we'll look at it. We'll see what everything looks like in terms of the eclipse. It's still a new moon, so it's another opportunity to reset. And the alchemy here is taking all of that chaos that happened in Sagittarius, because you'll notice we didn't have a Capricorn new moon. Everything else was Capricorn, though. The sun moved through Capricorn. The Mars has moved through Capricorn. So did Mercury and Venus. And Pluto still holds the gateway right here. So all of these planets had to go through Pluto's transformative arc and reset with Pluto as well. And we did not get a new moon in Capricorn. It was in the very late degree of Sagittarius, and now this one is at the very early degree of Aquarius. And so we skipped a sign. And you can do that in constellational astrology, because not all of the constellations are the same size. All right, so what does Aquarius mean to us? Well, I'm going to go into this a little bit in the PowerPoint when we actually look at the chart. But when we look at the sky, this is the water bearer. This is a man pouring forth knowledge. The Bible tells you to look for this man in astrotheology. This is where we seek our knowledge from. So it's knowledge we've never had before. It's knowledge that we have to integrate with all of this chaos in order to alchemize and create something that is for the good of humanity, because Aquarius is a collective sign. It means all of us together, all of us working towards the new age. It's new age energy. It's new age information. It's invention. So things like artificial intelligence, robots, space travel, all of that can be put in here. But it's about the newest cutting edge of knowledge, at least for me. So we see that here. We see a reset here with the sun and the moon and the north node here. And so something may happen this month around themes in Aquarius, because that's where the seeds are placed. This is not a Pisces moon, guys, because Saturn and Neptune are still in Pisces, you see. So I just want you to see the real sky. I want to orient you to the real sky. I think it's really important to do astrology locked in with the real sky, because this, friends, is the as above, and this red line is the sun's ecliptic. There you have that. Everything else, we showed you where Neptune and Saturn were, and these move from right to left along the ecliptic. So definitely not in Aries, which is right here. We have Uranus that recently went direct and is moving back through the constellation of Taurus. And then we have Jupiter in Gemini. So you see, and Virgo's huge, huge constellation. And that, of course, is our galactic center, and there is Ophiuchus. So this is our night sky. This is the astrology we read from, and this is the new moon that I offer you, one that begins in the stars of Aquarius on a new moon solar eclipse. All right, guys, let's get into some astrology. The new moon solar eclipse, the Alchemist Moon, by your rising sign, because you earned it. Now, you might feel a little weary running into this new moon. I know I do, with all of the information that's coming out, with so many opinions, so many thoughts. It's just too much. But if you look back over the last, say, 6 months since the last eclipse, you've actually done quite a bit. You've accomplished quite a lot. You've evolved far faster than you thought you would. And when we move through this eclipse portal, you become the alchemist, and you're going to be able to use this astrology and your own astrology with the chaos that's around you to create what you want. Okay, so this moon is for you. You are the alchemist. I'd like to quickly just thank all the channel members that have stepped up to support this work. This presentation is brought to you by them, by their support, because they have spoken to me with their support to continue doing this work on a regular basis. They find it valuable, and appreciate each and every one of you for your support for this work. Thank you so much, my friends. All right, let's talk briefly about eclipses so you understand what in the world an eclipse is, how we know it's coming, why do we care, okay? So a lunar eclipse is when the shadow of the earth is over the face of the moon. And this is usually during a full moon. We are going to have one of those on the 3rd of March. The solar eclipse is what is happening on the 17th. That's where the moon casts its shadow upon the earth. An apocalypse is if the moon is on the other side of the sun. We absolutely don't want that. It would be very bad. But what is an eclipse? Well, there are two ecliptics that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the sun's ecliptic, that red line that you saw in Stellarium. And then we're dealing with the moon's ecliptic, which is approximately at its greatest 5 degrees separated from the sun's ecliptic. Now, whenever you have two ecliptics that are separated slightly, they do have a point in which they cross. And that's what the lunar nodes are. So when the moon is traveling from the lower part of when it's underneath of the sun's ecliptic and it crosses and travels above, that is the north node here. So if it's moving this way, it's traveling up and it's in north node. And then when it crosses over and goes under, it is now the south node. This is Rahu in Vedic astrology, and this is Ketu. And these two speak to the dragon energy, the tail of the dragon, the head of the dragon, the repeating loop of karma, where Ketu typically describes the energy that you're really comfortable with, energy that you've already mastered, your patterns of behavior and thinking that are just innately you. It's very chill energy. Rahu, on the other hand, wants to get up and change the world. He wants to do things differently. He wants to learn. He wants to grasp. And so wherever your north node lives in your own chart is what drives you. It's what gets you up every day. And where it is for the collective, where it is right now, is where the sun and the moon are aligning. So what is it our collective is working toward? It's working towards a collective community. I mean, we're connected now more than ever. Yet at the same time, the emotional baggage and trauma that we carry around is making it very difficult for us to function in the Aquarian energy. Aquarian energy doesn't like, downer emotions, victimhood, being sad, blaming people. It's beyond that. It's like it's already done the healing. It's integrating. It's forgiven. It has compassion, but it doesn't get involved. It doesn't react. It responds, but doesn't react. And so this can be these eclipses portals, especially where it is now with South Node in Leo and North Node in Aquarius. We can learn to really move inward, love ourselves, love creation, love being a part of it, so that we can move forward with our collective and be connected and respond rather than react. And I think that's the energy that we're being taught during this eclipse. What I'd like to do is show you what the moon does. So let me pause this very quickly and get to Stellarium. Okay, what I would like you to observe is this ecliptic line, which is the sun's ecliptic. And then I would like you to watch where the moon is relative to being above the ecliptic or below the ecliptic. And I at a different date, because the moon is fuller and easier to see, what you'll notice is that moon approaches Leo, it will cross the sun's ecliptic, and that is the south node. So watch this. There it is in Gemini. There it is in Gemini, Cancer, Leo. You see how it's getting farther below the ecliptic? There it is, crossing it right there at the lunar node. And then as it travels, it begins to go under the ecliptic. So you can see this in actual real time. The moon going underneath of the ecliptic. And the moon's more difficult to see as we approach the sun here because of the darkness of it. But you can see it's still under the red line. And as we move towards this next new moon, we'll just move it over here. You can see the moon moving. There it is in front of the sun, just above the ecliptic. And now it is above it. There's the moon right there. You see? We'll move it again so we can see it as we go forward, as it rises above the ecliptic. And around it goes, up and down, above and below. And anytime the sun is on one of these nodes, we have a solar and lunar eclipse season. Sometimes you can have 3 eclipses if the sun is close enough to the nodes when it happens. So we're having a north node eclipse. All right, let's talk a little bit about eclipses. So the lunar nodes will drift from east to west with respect to the fixed stars. So that it's clockwise on our astrological charts. An eclipse seasons repeat about every 173.31 days, if you take it out on average. 1 north node eclipse and 1 south node eclipse per year. They occur earlier and earlier each year. If you recall last year's eclipse, it was in the middle of March, and now it's the end of February and early March. Solar eclipses can only occur early or late within a season, usually one solar eclipse and one lunar eclipse, but occasionally we can have three. This produces gaps ranging roughly from 149 to 173 days between eclipses. The lunar nodes are part of the create what's called the Saros cycle. This measures when nearly identical eclipses repeat, and this is when the lunar nodes return. So in your natal chart, you'll have a certain spot where the lunar nodes are located, and 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours later, you will have your nodal return, and that repeats every 18 years. After one Saros cycle, a solar eclipse with very similar geometry occurs again, and it's shifted westward on Earth by 8 extra hours. There is a cycle called an exoligmos cycle, and it's 3 Saros cycles combined. And so if you were born on an eclipse, age 54 and 33 days is a very important day for you. After an exoligmos, eclipses reoccur at nearly the same geographic longitude. The Saros series, South Node series eclipses begin at the North Pole and spiral southward, while North Node series eclipses begin at the South Pole and spiral northward. So this is probably since this is a North Node eclipse and it's at the South Pole, this is probably a newer eclipse in this particular Saros series. Each Saros series will have one eclipse every 18 years and about 70 to 80 eclipses total, and it lasts about 1,300 years, moving from pole to pole, waxing, peaking, and waning by design. So I want to show you a video of how the eclipses move. All right, friends, this is what a Saros cycle or series looks like. One Saros cycle, many cycles create the series. So it moves from the southern pole here and then stretches up over the millennia or the centuries. Just so you get an idea of what the larger cycle that the eclipses are in. And the ancients watched this, so it's not like it's a new phenomenon. It's something that we've always kept our eyes on. And the other thing that I wanted to show you was where the actual eclipse will be. So we'll just watch this real quick. You can see how it is going to be over Antarctica, and then it will be gone. So that's it for that eclipse. And this one is, let's see what the Saros cycle is. It is Saros 121. It is 61 of 71 for the one occurring on February 17th. And so when I watch the Saros series in motion, I'm often reminded of this graphic of the energy of the coiling snake around the egg. You know, the earth is the egg, and there's this gnosis, you know, not to squeeze too tight, you know, not to break it. You don't want to eat it before it's ready, kind of thing. You want to nourish. So it represents the cosmic egg, imagery and energy around creation, birth, rebirth, the moon and the goddess, seen in conjunction with the serpent or the snake. The goddess birthed both the snake and the egg from her body, and they floated on the waters of chaos. By wrapping herself around the egg, the snake broke it open, and from it hatched all forms of the universe. In this illustration, the egg is shown entwined with a spiral serpent, represent time as the boundary of the created world. Here are your list of previous eclipses and coming eclipses. So we are right here in this eclipse season with February 17th, the annular solar eclipse. And then on the 3rd, we'll have a total lunar eclipse. All right. Let me do some announcements with you really quickly before we get into the chart astrology. Real quick, how to connect with me if you like this content. Like the video, hype the video if that's available. Subscribe to the channel. Share this video to those that you want to share Real Sky Astrology with. And then also on Facebook, we are at Fellowship of 13 Signs. If you want to invest a little further, you can join the channel and cancel anytime. We meet once a month right around the new moon to discuss our astrology and the astrology in the sky. You guys get exclusive and first look content as well. 13% off my Gateway One readings also. So you can get a reading, you can take a course, and you can buy the book, The 13th Sign, Ophiuchus and the Astrology. They don't want you to see. All of my links are below. I appreciate all of you for watching. Here's the book cover. If you see that, Athen Cominti of Mastering the Zodiac wrote the foreword. And this book has all the information you need to translate Ophiuchus in your own chart. It's basically for modern mystics. This is not your mother's astrology. Okay, so a lot of good stuff in here to help you deprogram yourself and to really jump into the transformative work that is constellational astrology. And this leads me here. This is probably the last announcement you guys will see for Yoni Magic as we're closing the door. The dark moon on February 17th is when we really begin the chakra ascension work in earnest. We begin preparing ourselves for the ritual retreat that not everyone is going, but many are just coming to learn how we prepare and the practices that we're employing. If you go to Venus Seeker, you can get the previous 2 meetings we've done. You can get an idea of what our curriculum's about, or email me if you're curious. All right, let's get into this new moon. So February 17th of 2026, we see the moon in the sky. This is this chart right here is actually a 2-dimensional representation of that 3-dimensional sky that we were just looking at. And that red line is where the slice is made, okay? So we saw Jupiter in Gemini, we saw Uranus in Taurus, we saw Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, we saw Venus and Mercury just in front of the sun and the moon, and Mercury behind it all. There is Pluto bringing up the rear. Everybody was in front of Pluto before the last new moon. So here we are. Everything's kind of spread out a bit, and they're all contributing to this beautiful astrology. So we have this new moon in Aquarius. Again, this is about, inspiration. It's about becoming the alchemist. It's about using knowledge and chaos to your own advantage. It's about responding rather than reacting. So let's get into some of the aspects that are being made to this sun and moon. They're right here at this blue line at 2 degrees of Aquarius. And then this red line is Mars at 18 degrees Aquarius. And then there's Pluto at 3 degrees. And of course, you see Venus conjunct the south node and then Mercury right ahead of everybody. All right, here's the first aspect, the only aspect really to sun and moon that are interesting. And it's the square to Uranus in Taurus. Uranus in Taurus for me has always been about bringing in those cosmic codes, right? Uranus is the cosmic transmitter of the zodiac. He's the ruler of Aquarius too, by the way. So this square is very interesting because he's coming from a place of embodied inspiration, rebellion, revelation, revolution to a place of mental revolution. And there's a lot of mental energy going on here, especially with Mercury here too. So there's this square to the inner and outer expression of ourselves. The reset of this new moon is about how are we going to break free? What are we going to practically employ to express the most individual version of ourselves? Uranus's path to enlightenment is through revelation, revolution, metamorphosis. There's a disruptive type of energy to it, an unexpected type of energy to it. So again, we are used to this. We've been doing this the past, 4 lunations. There's always been something that's been disruptive because Uranus is connected to everything and has been for several months. But there might be something here that breaks down because it needs to. Right? Something might be destroyed in the physical sense so that it can be energetically liberated and create space for something new. I would expect that. I don't know what that means. Whatever house Uranus is in for you may describe that for you, the relationship. So for example, this is Aquarius rising. It's like an ascendant IC kind of energy. So it's who you are versus, what's going on deep inside of you. So there might be some kind of internal disruption going on with you. You might feel it underneath your feet before you take action, or action may simply rumble from deep within. And if Uranus is in your 10th house, it might be a completely different story. So something here gets disrupted, something physical, something tangible, something that you've manifested, something that you hold value to. Okay. So we'll be ready for that. And that's the only aspect Sun and Moon are making. Okay. But when we're talking about lunar energy, especially in eclipse, we're looking at the lunar nodes as well. Rahu is conjunct planet Venus, who's literally just stepped into her evening star phase. She's racing towards Earth. This is the early part of Venus's cycle. We have probably about 8 more months until she reaches the peak of her cycle. And this is a time of experimentation, of feeling into the body what resonates and what doesn't. It's a time for trying things. Venus can mean relationships and beauty. And if you're trying out different relationships in this energy, that makes sense. It can also mean partnerships and money and business and influence. And the North Node is here. And so there's some kind of benefic influence that is pushing us all towards this destiny of the higher mind, you see. And Venus adds a nice soothing energy to that. We realize that it's not as hard. We realize that we actually do have the alchemy and the magic to have and to do what we desire, especially when it comes to collective things like new earth type of energy, disclosure type of energy, revealing hidden technology kind of energy. This feels like there's a benefactor coming through. So I like this a lot. I also like Mercury there too. Mercury will station retrograde in just a few days. I can't remember the exact date, but it's right around when Venus enters Pisces. So when that transition happens, Mercury's going to go retrograde, but Mercury's close to the lunar nodes right now. Not exactly conjunct, about 8 degrees away, but still close enough for astrology to say that there's an orb of influence. And Mercury literally just crossed over this space like maybe 4 or 5 days ago. So Mercury's your mind. Mercury's also racing towards us. When Mercury begins to station, that's actually when Mercury's moving the fastest right towards your face. It just doesn't look like lateral movement. And so our minds are picking up. We're more psychic. Our channels are wide open. We can receive more information than we could before when Mercury was behind the sun on the 21st of January. It's a very fast cycle. So all of a sudden, things are coming out into the open. Things are being exposed, and it's for the betterment of humanity. And so you see these ugly things coming out in the world, but it's for us. Our mind has the opportunity to process this in a way that is non-traumatic. So I like all of that. And that South Node is in Leo. It's being ruled by your sun. So sun energy, eclipse energy, that's also in Aquarius. There's almost like this, kind of dispositor energy where they're assisting one another. And when Uranus looks straight across the chart at the sun, he's mirroring back, that unique individual contributor to the greater whole that you are. Leo's all about the radiating, going back to the divine inner child, expressing your unique gifts so that you can resonate in a field that others can find you. And you can create something together and move forward. So that's the lunar nodes. The lunar nodes have a tough aspect with Lilith. This has been around for a couple of months as well. I just wanted to point out real quickly that Uranus currently is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, which is conjunct the North Node in Uranus's sign. So again, there's this relationship energy between all of this here that plays into the greater whole. Here it is. Here's Lilith square to the lunar nodes. And this is all about being truthful, being authentic, not being held down, held back. There's parts of you that are, maybe deeply hidden that you never even saw before, but it should fascinate you. You should look at yourself like you're a scientific specimen. Especially if you've been through the ringer and you've been through a lot of things in your life, just like analyze yourself as if you were a case report or a study and get fascinated with why, things happen to you the way they did, why you do the things you do. If you have that kind of fascination, you almost can't help but radiate your true authentic self, because then you in a way almost want to share it. Like, hey, did you know I do this weird little thing? And somebody else will be like, oh yeah, me too. And then all of a sudden you have community because of, something that you found curious and interesting and dug deep in to find out about yourself. And so that might be a constructive way to use this. Certainly, if you don't have that curiosity, if you're tied to the wounding, if you're tied to the sadness, if you're tied to the meaning behind it all, then you may be stuck in sort of a traumatic loop where it's like, woe is me. And Aquarius energy doesn't like that. This won't feel comfortable if you're doing that. You got to let that stuff go. We don't have enough time for that right now. The energy is moving so rapidly that I think really the best way to deal with anything that comes up trauma wise is to just look at it curiously. Be fascinated with your darkness. Bring it out and look at it under a microscope and say, why am I like this? It might be easier to move through the energy that's coming up if you can do that. And don't get me wrong, I know it's not easy for everyone. Some people have had tough times, but if you can do it, it's very, very liberating. I think that's the point of this whole lunation, is to liberate us because you deserve it. Black Moon Lilith is also influencing other parts of this lunation too. So she's tangentially attached to it through the lunar nodes and with her square to Venus, but she's also sextiling Pluto and in a trine to Saturn and Neptune. So it's as if the OGs, all the OGs are saying, yeah, it's time to integrate this, and it's time to respond instead of react. It is time to forgive. It is time to put the baggage down. It is time to have compassion for yourself and for others. This is really, really supportive energy for doing that shadow work and having fun actually doing it. Because Uranus can be really fun, if you're not too weighed down with any negative energy. And Pluto's so powerful and wholly transformative. Saturn's your best friend when you master something, when you become the expert at something, and Neptune will show you all the possibilities. Pluto's attached to this as well through this mini triangle. So a lot of supportive energy for really grounded shadow work that you can analyze like a scientist, that isn't going to rip your heart open. In fact, it's going to bring you home to yourself, I think. Mercury's also in a trine to Jupiter. So this is kind of like a talk to God energy, right? Jupiter's the guru. Jupiter is spiritual energy. It's expansion. It attains enlightenment through optimism, faith, hope, and abundance. And a trine to Mercury is wide open communication, expansive, not just communication, but expansive transmission. Like all of a sudden, the field of communication will open very widely after this eclipse portal. And Jupiter is ruled by Mercury. Mercury's about to do a back and forth through Pisces and Aquarius. We'll actually come back over the south node or the north node, I think. So a lot of energy in the air for, especially with Mercury coming towards us, racing towards us. That's expansion. That's an expansion in intensity. So you add Jupiter onto that, and there's even more expansion, more communication, more ideas. So some beautiful, like, creative ideas could be popping off here during this new moon if it is your intention. And then we have this Uranus, who is the chart ruler of this lunation, making a sextile also to Saturn and Neptune, right? So the Neptune-Uranus is surrendering to the metamorphosis, surrendering to the revolution or the rebellion or the revelation. And Saturn and Uranus in a sextile is mastering the invention, mastering something, the inspiration, breaking the system in order to liberate it. So there's some breaking that has to happen, but it's going to happen in a very, like, spiritually hygienic way, in a very in a way that makes it okay to forgive and forget in some strange ways. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's sort of what I'm picking up. Like, all of these things that are coming out, that we're realizing, that we're revelating about, that are being revealed to us, are so that we can purge this darkness. And I think it's a beautiful time to do that, not only on the collective level, but also personally. Because this Uranus sextile is kind of like a chain reaction, right? It sends a sextile energy to Neptune and Saturn, then it sends sextile energy to Pluto, who's powerful, and then it blasts Black Moon Lilith. So this whole thing, and there's actually a trine that will be developing over the course of the month between Pluto and Uranus. They broke up a little bit because Uranus was going retrograde, but now that Uranus is direct, it'll pick it back up again. And of course we have this. So you see this diamond structure. It's so supportive for whatever, like, gets disrupted by Uranus and then is brought up through deep investigation. And I mean, that's mostly our sky. There's one more sextile that we should consider, and that is the sextile between Chiron and Mars. Mars in Capricorn is exalted. This is where you actually have the energy to transform yourself. Your desire to transform and achieve, to change what you are and who you are and your surroundings in order to reach the thing that you want. Mars is so well placed for that energy right now, for you to take action that you need. But you need to do it through, you need to do a little bit of healing too, through this lunation. This connection to Chiron really allows you to tap into compassion, to tap into gentleness and empathy. And so I really like this a lot. There's an energy for compassion and empathy. That can be a very draining thing, but this sextile suggests that there may be an opportunity to have some of that. So a lot of things are going to come out. A lot of people's lives are going to get ruined or changed because of everything that's coming out. And we have a little compassion. I think it's easier when Mars is connected to Chiron. I also wanted you guys to see your ruling planets for each of the constellations, and that there is some, not controversy, just some different thoughts about what rules this quarter of the sky. This is a very powerful part of the sky. It's the solstice path for the northern and the southern hemisphere. For the northern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice. For the southern hemisphere, it's the summer solstice, when the sun goes basically from Virgo into the galactic center. And I feel like this part of the sky is very misunderstood. There's a lot of potency, magic, and secrets here that have been hidden by tropical astrology and astrotheology and even Hermeticism. That if we really maybe reconsider some of these rulers, we might be able to tap into it. But at any rate, that's your rulership scheme. And so I think we are ready to go into the rising signs. So let's find your rising sign. It's not too difficult if you understand astrological charts. But if you've never done an astrological chart, if you know your birth time, that's the most important thing to actually get a really accurate reading with what I'm doing. But if that doesn't work, just use 12 noon or put the sun on the ascendant, and you can do the sun as the reading for this. So like for example, I'm Taurus rising, but Cancer sun. So if I didn't know I was Taurus rising, I know I'm Cancer sun, and I could listen to the Cancer sun reading, and it will also be somewhat accurate. You can go into drdanny.com free chart. The link is below. Put in your details. You want to look for this symbol. You want to look on the left side of your chart. Whatever is rising is your rising sign. That's your ascendant. And whatever rules that sign is your chart ruler. Okay. And you'll see it when we go to the different rising signs. You can also go to stellarium-web.org, the web-based software that we just went to, and you can put in your date and time, and it should show you your ascendant. If it doesn't, because sometimes it's funny depending on where you are and how your location services are locked in on your computer, go with the chart. The chart's more accurate. All the timestamps are below. If you're learning from me and you are one of the students in Stellar Foundations, or you've been a student, I encourage you to listen to all of them so that you learn how I do these readings, so that you can also do them for your friends, your families, or your own YouTube channel. So the real sky awaits you, my friends. Let's start with Aquarius rising. Beautiful Aquarius rising. Your chart ruler is Uranus. We have been staring at your chart the entire time. So you should have a very good understanding of the energy that's available. And now what I'm going to do is break it down by your actual house. Now, if you're a later rising, it could be off a little bit, but that's okay. This is going to be the deepest reading you can have without actually getting a personal reading. So without further ado, we'll get into it here for you. I think this new moon eclipse is deeply personal for you, Aquarius rising. The sun and the moon are eclipsed on your actual ascendant, initiating a reset at the level of identity and embodiment. Not about reinvention or visibility here. This is about substance. This is about the you that you are becoming. And it's being recalibrated, literally from the inside out. And this process is going to feel much quieter than expected. You also have Venus, Mercury, and the North Node in your first house. So values, voice, and future direction are being rewritten through your bodily expression. You may notice changes in how you speak, how you present yourself, what you're no longer willing to explain, and attraction becomes the compass. So literally, whatever you feel aligned to draws you forward naturally. And what feels performative is going to lose energy. This eclipse is square to Uranus in your fourth house, third house-ish, creating tension between who you're becoming and the emotional foundations that you come from. So home, family, patterns, or internal definitions of safety may feel unsettled. This is where the change may occur. It's an invitation to redefine stability on your own terms. So something that keeps you really stable is about to be disrupted. But it's for you, because Saturn and Neptune in the second house, alongside Chiron, bring the alchemical work into worth and resources. So old wounds around money, survival, and self-valuation may surface. When you feel this rupture, you're going to feel like it's your fault. You may recognize where you have undervalued yourself or carried unrealistic expectations. And so Saturn's going to ask you for that structure. And if you give it, Neptune's going to soften the rigid narratives and show you everything that's possible, while Chiron will open the possibility of healing through honesty rather than compensating. You get Jupiter in your fifth house, offering a steady current of creative nourishment. Joy, play, romance, and authentic expression want space. These are not distractions from the work. They're actually part of the medicine. Now, Black Moon Lilith in the 10th house shifts your relationship to authority and the public role. You will feel less willing to perform power in ways that feel untrue. Integrity becomes more important than recognition for you here. Mars and Pluto are in your 12th house right now, so much of the real work is happening beneath the surface. The way that you deal with this rupture is by going within. You're going to have the energy to transform yourself from the root up. So old motivations will dissolve. Fatigue or withdrawal will arise as the psyche composts those outdated drives. So if you rest, if you feel like you need to rest, it's not avoidance here. It's not being a slacker. It's actually part of the transformation. So some possible manifestations of this might be a desire for solitude or reduced visibility, reassessment of your finances or self-worth, emotional restlessness or rupture around family or home, change in personal expression or boundaries, periods of fatigue followed by clarity. So remedies for this moon are to protect your energy and simplify your inputs. You should not be watching the news or reading the feed. You need to ground the body or ground through the body rather than the mind. Review your finances with compassion, curiosity, and realism, and allow your identity to shift without explanation. Prioritize rest as part of this process, and you should do fine. This Alchemist Moon, Aquarius rising, is changing what you're made of. You do not need to hurry the becoming. Hello, Capricorn rising. Saturn rules your chart, and Saturn is hanging out in your second house with Neptune. For you guys, this eclipse is also in your first house, just like Aquarius rising, but it's later in the first house. So there's a profound reset of identity and embodiment here for you guys. The sun and the moon will be eclipsed in the first house alongside Pluto and Mars. This is a powerful reconfiguration of how you inhabit your body, your will, and your presence. Old versions of strength, control, or self-definition are being stripped down to their essential form. And what remains is quieter, but far more potent. Here you have Venus conjunct the North Node with Mercury, all in your second house with Saturn and Neptune as well. This is the alchemical work center for you. It is in your second house. Money, resources, voice, and self-worth are all under review. Capricorn rising, you will feel a shift in what you're willing to work for or tolerate, and Saturn will bring you that realism. Neptune will dissolve all illusion, and together they ask for honesty and sustainability. So this is all about alignment for you, not necessarily sacrifice. Chiron in the third house will highlight healing around communication, learning, and mental habits. You will become more aware of how you speak to yourself or how information impacts your nervous system. So you can't take on the wounds of other people when you hear about them right now. There's too much at stake for your own healing. There's an opportunity here to soften mental rigidity and choose kinder internal dialogue to yourself. Uranus in your fourth house, this is the rupture we're talking about, continues to unsettle emotional foundations. So home, family dynamics, or inner security may feel less predictable right now, especially as this is an eclipse portal squaring your fourth house. This isn't to destabilize you just for the fun of it. This is actually liberating you. So it's breaking old patterns that no longer fit with who you're becoming. Jupiter in your sixth house offers growth through daily life. So any work routines, health practices, service-oriented roles can and should expand in meaningful ways. Small changes to habits will bring outsized, huge, big benefits. Now, the South Node in the eighth house is asking you to release old entanglements around shared resources, because that's where the alchemy is happening for you. Emotional dependency, let it go. Any bonds that cause crisis, cut them, cut those cords. You are no longer meant to build identity through survival mode. With Black Moon Lilith in your 11th house, there's going to be tension around group belonging or future goals. You're going to feel less willing to compromise your truth for the sake of inclusion. This is a recalibration of community. So the people that you hang out with are actually going to change. They'll automatically either fall away or recoalesce around you. So some possible manifestations might be a desire to redefine personal boundaries, shifts in financial priorities or income sources, emotional restlessness at home for sure, changes in physical energy or appearance, and a clearer sense of what is worth your effort. Remedies for this moon might be to ground daily through the body and through breath. Simplify your finances and commitments. Get rid of those subscriptions that you don't need, that you're not going to watch anymore. Revise routines, except for Dr. Danny's channel. Revise routines with sustainability in mind. Speak with intention, not reflex, and allow identity to evolve without pressure. Capricorn rising, the Alchemist Moon is refining your strength, not by adding more weight, but by removing what's no longer necessary. Hello, Sagittarius rising. Jupiter rules your chart, and Jupiter is across the way in your 7th house in Gemini. This eclipse, friends, is happening in the terrain of value, voice, and inner security, all 2nd house energy. So, and it's alongside Pluto and Mars. So this is an intense alchemical reset around money, resources, self-worth, and survival patterns. Old strategies for earning, holding, or protecting may lose their charge. What remains for you through this portal is a clear sense of what you're actually willing to invest your energy in. And with Mars and Pluto here, you're going to feel driven to reclaim your power around finances or around personal values, or both. It's not about force. It's about brutal honesty with Pluto, getting rid of the ego. You might recognize where fear has shaped your relationship to security, or where effort has replaced trust. This eclipse invites a more sustainable form of strength. Meanwhile, you have Venus, Mercury, and the North Node in your 3rd house, shifting attention toward communication, learning, and daily exchanges. So here, your voice will become the tool of alignment. Conversations matter. That's where your alchemy is. What you say, write, or teach will shape your future path. You're going to feel called to simplify your language, clarify agreements, or engage more intentionally with siblings, neighbors, or your close community. Saturn and Neptune and Chiron here in your 4th house bring the deeper work to your home, okay? So emotional foundations, patterns around family, and internal definitions of safety are being restructured and healed. You may feel old memories surfacing, or a desire to redefine what home truly means to you. This is a slower, tender process, and stability is built from the inside outward. Uranus in your 5th, remember, this is where the rupture occurs. So around creative and romantic patterns, you might feel something explosive. You could feel a sudden desire for more freedom in how you express joy or pleasure. Creativity wants to be authentic rather than impressive. Jupiter in your 7th house supports growth through partnerships. Allies, clients, or intimate relationships can become sources of expansive energy and perspective. This is a time to listen as much as you speak. So for you, Sagittarius rising, the alchemy of this moon is all around the communication, receiving, and transmitting. The 9th node in your 9th house releases the outdated beliefs, the teaching roles, the philosophies that no longer reflect lived truth. You may find that the people that you once looked up to for knowledge, people that you respected, people that you emulated, don't do it for you anymore. And that's totally normal. That's totally fine. So you're no longer meant to preach from certainty. Your wisdom now comes from your own experience. Black Moon Lilith in the 12th house means that shadow energy might surface quietly. Unconscious fears, suppressed desires, or spiritual exhaustion may arise without a clear narrative. This isn't really a problem to solve, though. It's like a signal to just rest and let it go. So some possible manifestations for this moon for you guys. You may see a shift in income or spending priorities. There will be a heightened awareness around stuff and self-worth. You might notice meaningful conversations, writing projects, communications, emotional processing around your home and family, and actually a desire for quieter spiritual space. So some of the remedies for you for this moon is to review your finances with honesty and restraint. Speak and write with intention. Tend to your living space gently. Allow creativity without the pressure, and protect sleep and private time. The Alchemist Moon is refining how you sustain yourself. Security now grows from truth, not effort. Sagittarius rising. Scorpio and Ophiuchus rising. You guys get a reading together because your constellations share the sky. This line here in the middle is arbitrary. It's just drawn because it's halfway between the point at which we go from Libra to Scorpio and when we cross the galactic center into Sagittarius. So literally, it's just the halfway point because they're on top of one another. Traditionally, Mars ruled this part of the sky, but recently Pluto rules Scorpio, and we didn't have a ruler for Ophiuchus until just the last decade or so. So Chiron rules Ophiuchus for our modern interpretation. Whichever one you pick, Scorphiuchus, is fine with me. You guys change who you are all the time, and that's your gift. This new moon is happening for you in your 3rd house, which is the realm of the mind, voice, and meaning. But the transformation will reach much deeper than your words. The sun and moon eclipsed in your 3rd house are alongside Mars and Venus and the North Node. This is the alchemical reset of how you think, how you speak, how you interpret, and how you engage with your immediate world. You may notice changes in how you communicate or what you're actually willing to give language to. Old narratives lose urgency. Certain conversations feel complete and others feel totally new and necessary. Mars here adds the heat to that. So impatience with mental noise or performative dialogue can surface and trip you up. This moon will ask you to choose words that are grounded in lived truth rather than reaction or performance. Pluto moving through your 2nd house anchors the eclipse into value and survival. What you say now carries weight because it's tied to self-worth and resource allocation. You might recognize where your voice and money intersect, where you have underchanged, over-explained, or even withheld truth for the sake of security. This is a powerful moment here for you to reclaim authority over what you offer and what you accept in return, Scorphiuchus rising. You guys have Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune in your 4th house down here. This brings the deeper alchemy inward, homeward. Thought patterns rooted in your family history or early conditioning will rise for review here. You may reflect on where your inner voice was shaped by silence, responsibility, or confusion. Saturn here will bring maturity, and Neptune will soften the emotional walls, and together they allow a more compassionate internal structure to form. Chiron in your fifth house highlights healing around creative expression and joy. There may be tenderness here around being seen, sharing your gifts, or allowing pleasure without justifying it. This is an invitation to create without the outcome in mind, because joy does not need to be earned here. Uranus in your sixth house introduces disruption in the routines and the health patterns. This is where the rupture happens. The body is the messenger. Certain habits no longer work the way they once did. Especially through this eclipse, you have to be flexible. You have to be ready to make the small changes because they can create meaningful shifts for the future. Jupiter's retrograde in your eighth house, deepening inner exploration around trust, intimacy and shared resources, and psychological truth. Growth now comes through honest engagement with what's been hidden, unspoken, or emotionally complex. Expansion is internal, slow, and rooted in depth rather than ideology. The South Node in Leo in your ninth house releases old attachments to certainty, authority, or being seen as the holder of truth. Past roles as teacher, preacher, expert, or moral guide may loosen their grip. You're no longer required to perform your wisdom, defend your beliefs, or lead from any doctrine. Meaning now for you, Scorpio, emerges through dialogue, curiosity, and humility rather than proclamation. With Black Moon Lilith in your 12th house, the shadow material will surface quietly. Old fears, suppressed anger, or spiritual fatigue can arise without a clear storyline. This is deep psychic composting. What dissolves here does not need analysis. It needs rest. So possible manifestations for you are shifts in communication styles or priorities, the desire to speak less and to mean more, financial clarity tied to self-expression, release of rigid belief identities, creative vulnerability followed by insight. Some remedies for this moon for you is to simplify communication and information intake. Speak only what feels grounded in your body. If it feels true, then speak it. Review finances in relation to exchange and allow beliefs to soften without collapse because you need to protect your rest and your private time. This Alchemist Moon is refining your voice, not to make it louder, but to make it truer. Hello, Libra rising. Traditionally, Venus rules your chart, but I also like Mercury as the co-ruler. Mercury would be the psychopomp that would ferry souls from the living to the underworld, and Virgo Libra to Scorpio sort of represents that threshold. And I really like Mercury here. He's the diplomat, he's the concierge, he's the farrier, he's the one that brings you from this space to that space and back. Venus here is kind of forced to walk a straight and narrow path of balance, where in actuality, this energy very much likes ecstasy. It likes bliss. It likes the extreme of feeling and sensing. So it's cute here in a dress, but it's more ecstatic in Virgo, and Mercury's much more stable in Libra. At any rate, you choose your chart ruler, Libra rising. This lunation is starting in your 4th house. Black Moon Lilith is in your 1st house, signaling that something essential about how you inhabit yourself is no longer willing to be softened or negotiated away. You're going to feel less patient with self-editing or relational compromise that costs you your integrity. And it's not about provoking others. You're not here to do that, but it's about standing more honestly inside yourself. With that Sun and Moon eclipse in your 4th house, joined by Venus and the North Node and Mars, also all present here in your 4th. This places the center of gravity firmly in your inner world. So home, emotional security, family patterns, and your private sense of safety are undergoing a deep recalibration. What once felt like home may no longer fit. What truly nourishes you now may feel even quieter, simpler, and more necessary. Mars here can stir an emotional urgency or even an impatience, but it also gives you the courage to protect your inner life and make changes that support that long-term stability. The eclipse asks you to root the future path in what feels emotionally sustainable. Care for yourself in private becomes the foundation for everything that comes next. You are not meant to build outward without first being supported inward. Pluto in your third house reshapes how you think and speak. Conversations deepen, surface level exchanges feel intolerable. You may become more aware of the power of your words and choose them with greater intention. Communication becomes less about performing and more about transforming. And with Mercury in your fifth house here, along with Saturn and Neptune, creative expression wants a voice. But at the same time, Saturn and Neptune are refining how joy, romance, and creativity are expressed. Saturn will ask you to take your creative life seriously, while Neptune dissolves fantasies about what pleasure should look like. Together, they invite expression that is sincere, embodied, and enduring rather than dramatic or externally validated. Chiron in your sixth house highlights healing around daily routines, health, and service. You may notice where overextension has become habitual or where the body has been quietly compensating. Small, compassionate adjustments to your daily rhythm today can bring meaningful relief for the future. Uranus in your seventh house continues to disrupt your relational patterns. Ships that were once steady may shift suddenly. And this isn't to destabilize you. This is to break away things that you no longer need, right? It restores the truth in your relationships. You are learning through this process how to stay connected without actually abandoning yourself. Jupiter in your ninth house expands perspective and meaning. Study, teaching, travel, or spiritual inquiry can offer grounding wisdom and a broader view. At the same time, the South Node in your 10th house releases old definitions of success, visibility, or public role. You're no longer required to perform an identity to justify your worth. That's the inner alchemy for you, Libra rising. So some possible manifestations for you are a desire to change home, living space, or even reallocate your emotional boundaries. You're going to have shifts in your creative expression or even your romantic priorities. There's a deeper, more intentional communication. Fatigue linked to overcommitment will rise, and a reevaluation of career visibility or public expectations. Remedies for this moon: tend to your home as a source of nourishment and grounding. Allow creativity to be sincere rather than impressive. Simplify your routines to support the body. Speak with intention rather than obligation. And let relationships evolve without forcing balance. The Alchemist Moon is refining where you belong. When the inner foundation is true, everything else reorganizes naturally. Hello, busy, beautiful Virgo rising. Mercury is your chart ruler. However, I really like Venus as the ruler of Virgo for a lot of reasons. I've done several presentations on this. You can choose either in my cosmology, or you can have them as your co-ruler. Either way, both are in Aquarius right now, pretty close to each other. This moon is also in Aquarius. So the sun and moon are eclipsed in your fifth house, joined by Venus and the North Node, as well as Mars in the fifth house. So this is a foundational reset of creative life force, pleasure, romance, and self-expression. Wow, Virgo, you have a very interesting month ahead of you. What you create, what you enjoy, and what you give your heart to are being reorganized at the deepest level. And really, guys, it's not about doing more, although that's your go-to. It is allowing the joy to be sustainable. Mars here can stir up urgency or frustration if pleasure's been deferred or compartmentalized for too long. Venus in the North Node clarify that the future path is tied to what genuinely nourishes you, not what earns approval. Okay, so creativity is no longer an option here. It is essential. Black Moon Lilith in your second house sharpens the work around your value and self-worth. So you will probably feel less willing to underprice yourself, overgive, or even silence your needs to maintain any ideas of harmony. This will cause a discomfort to surface, but it's clarifying, like what you value must be honored in practice, not just acknowledged internally. Pluto in the fourth house signals deep internal restructuring. Emotional roots, family patterns, and your sense of inner safety are shifting. You will feel drawn inward, revisiting memories or redefining what home actually means to you. This is slow, stabilizing work that quietly strengthens everything else. Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune all in your 6th house. This is where daily life becomes the laboratory. Routines, health practices, and work rhythms are under review. So Saturn asks for structure that actually supports you, and Neptune will dissolve habits built on self-sacrifice or idealized productivity. Together, they invite a more humane and compassionate relationship with time and energy. So they'll help you find the space to be more creative. Chiron in your 7th house brings healing into relationships. So any old wounds you have around partnership, reciprocity, or being met will surface this month. This will help you recognize where you have been adapting too much, trying to fix others. You'll let all that go. And what that does is it allows new relational patterns to form. Uranus in your 8th house is where the rupture happens. So there's an unpredictability here in shared resources, intimacy, or emotional entanglements. Sudden insights or shifts may arise. Control will not be effective here. So whatever happens, whatever surprises you, awareness, flexibility, and curiosity are your greatest assets. Jupiter in your 10th house invites reflection around career and leadership, as well as long-term direction. Growth is occurring here, but inwardly at first, until Jupiter goes direct. You will be redefining what success actually means before any visible changes are made. Then you have South Node in Leo in the 11th house, releasing all old attachments to group identity, audience validation, or even performing a role within communities. You, Virgo rising, are no longer required to lead, to shine, or even to be seen in order to belong. Future visions that were built on recognition rather than resonance will quietly dissolve. So what remains is a more authentic alignment with people and projects that support your creative life rather than consume it. Some possible manifestations for you might be a renewed or redirected creative drive, shifts in romantic or pleasure priorities. You might change your work routine or even your awareness around health. Emotional processing will be linked to home or family, and there will be a reevaluation of professional and community roles. Some remedies for this lunation, for this new moon, is to make time for joy without justification. Honor your value in tangible ways. Simplify daily routines to reduce strain. Get help. Allow relationships to evolve organically instead of through force. And release obligations rooted in visibility rather than truth. This Alchemist Moon is refining how you create and serve. And when joy is aligned, everything else becomes workable, Virgo rising. Hello, lovely and lively Leo rising. The sun rules your chart, and the sun is eclipsed during this lunation in your 6th house in Aquarius. So there is a reset here for you through the realm of service, health, and daily life. You have the South Node on your ascendant, and this marks a shedding of familiar self-definitions. Ways that you've been known, seen, or relied upon are quietly loosening, and this isn't loss. This feels good. You're no longer required to carry a version of yourself that's already done its work. Having the sun and moon here eclipsed alongside Mars in your 6th house, as well as Venus and Mercury and the North Node, this is the alchemy. The alchemy here is squarely in the body and in the rhythm of everyday living. So your work habits, your health patterns, and your obligations are being reorganized. You might feel called to simplify schedules, change how you expend energy, or take your physical well-being more seriously. Venus here clarifies that care for the body is non-negotiable. It is part of the future path. Having Mars here can bring irritation or urgency if systems are inefficient or draining. This is the signal for you to change what you're doing. The body is communicating clearly now. And so when it's listened to, it becomes an ally rather than an obstacle. Black Moon Lilith is in your third house, squaring these lunar nodes, sharpening your voice. You may feel less willing to soften your language or explain yourself unnecessarily. Thought patterns, conversations, and local environments are being purified of noise. This is where your curiosity comes in. Speaking only what is true becomes a form of self-respect. Pluto in your fifth house transforms creative expression and desire. Joy deepens. Romance becomes more honest. What you create now carries more weight, even if it is shared with fewer people. Expression is no longer about applause. It's about vitality. You have Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune all in your seventh house. Your relationships are under careful review here. Communication with partners becomes more serious and more compassionate at the same time. Saturn will ask you for maturity and boundaries. Neptune will dissolve all illusions, and together they allow partnerships to be built on reality rather than projection. Chiron in your eighth house highlights healing around trust, intimacy, and shared resources. Old wounds related to vulnerability may surface gently. This is an opportunity to redefine closeness in a way that feels safe and reciprocal. Uranus in your ninth house, this is where the rupture occurs. So your belief systems will be disrupted, as well as long-term held philosophies. You might feel less attached to certainty and more open to lived experience as truth. Jupiter in your 11th house supports long-term growth and expansion in your communities, but only as a byproduct. Because when your daily life is aligned, the communities expand naturally. Some possible manifestations for you, Leo rising: changes in health routines or work schedules. Get ready for that. You have a desire to release old identity expectations. You're going to have clearer boundaries with your communication, and there will be a shift in relational dynamics, as well as a renewed creative depth for you. Some remedies for this lunar cycle is prioritize the body as a source of wisdom. Listen to the body's signals. By simplifying those daily systems and commitments, this will be easier. Speak with clarity and restraint. Allow creativity to be intimate and honest. Let recognition arrive without pursuit. The Alchemist Moon is refining how you live day to day. When the body is supported, the future organizes itself. Leo rising. Hello, Cancer rising. The moon rules your chart, and the moon is important in all of these lunar videos. The moon is occulting the sun for this particular lunation, and they are in your 7th house. So this lunation will be working for you guys through relationships, trust, and energetic exchange. There's a reshaping of how you meet others and how deeply you're willing to merge. The South Node here in your 2nd house begins the release of old self-reliance patterns around money, worth, and security. You are no longer meant to do everything alone or define safety solely through control of resources. The sun and the moon are eclipsed in your 7th house, alongside Mars and Pluto on the descendant. This is powerful relational initiation. This is your alchemy, Cancer rising. Partnerships become the crucible for transformation. Power dynamics surface where they have been implicit. Relationships that can hold honesty will deepen, and those built on avoidance or imbalance will absolutely shift or even dissolve. No confrontations needed. This is truth becoming unavoidable. You see, Mars in the 7th house adds urgency and heat to these interactions. It's as if something has been unsaid and it may press for expression right now. Used consciously, like an alchemist, like a magician, this is courage. Used unconsciously and it feels like friction, and awareness is simply the remedy. So with Venus, North Node, Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune, all in your 8th house, the alchemical work moves beneath the surface. Shared finances, intimacy, emotional bonds, and energetic agreements are being restructured. Saturn will ask for clarity and boundaries, while Neptune softens defenses. Mercury will give language to what has been felt but not articulated. And Venus clarifies what you are willing to merge with. This is deep, private work that reshapes your trust levels from the inside out. Black Moon Lilith is hanging out in your 5th house, reclaiming desire, creativity, and authentic pleasure. You may feel less willing to censor joy or mute your longings. This is life force returning to your body, and you should look at it with curiosity and joy. Chiron in your 9th house brings healing around belief, meaning, and faith. Old philosophies may no longer hold lived truth. Wisdom now comes from experience rather than doctrine. Uranus in your 10th, this is the rupture. This introduces an instability and an awakening around career, visibility, and public role. You might even feel restless with existing professional identities and even less willing to perform authority in outdated ways. Sudden changes in direction are absolutely possible here, but the deeper shift is internal. Authenticity begins to matter more than status. Jupiter in your 12th house means that growth happens quietly. Rest, retreat, spiritual insight, and unconscious integration are essential. You don't want to push outward during this cycle. This is a cycle for listening and expanding inward. Some possible manifestations for you, Cancer rising, are that your relationships are going to restructure, or they're going to deepen, or they're going to disappear. Intense conversations around trust or shared resources, shifts in career direction or public identity, perhaps initiated by these relationship energies. So the career can rupture the relationship and vice versa for you. There's going to be a desire for deeper emotional intimacy, an increased need for solitude and rest. Some remedies for this moon would be to speak honestly and calmly in those relationships. Respond, don't react, Cancer rising. Clarify shared financial and emotional agreements. Allow the career direction to evolve without forcing any clarity. Just go with it. Protect your private time and sleep, and release the need to control the outcomes. The Alchemist Moon is transforming how you bond and how you are seen, and security now grows from truth rather than control. Hello, Gemini rising. Mercury is your chart ruler, and Mercury is in your 9th house right now. This lunation is occurring in your 8th house, along with Venus and the South Node and with Mercury. So this matters for you guys. This is a cycle that begins in the unseen. The alchemy is internal, private, and deeply transformative. This whole energy is about intimacy, shared resources, power dynamics, grief, trust, and energetic entanglement. Something here is being dissolved at the root so that a new relationship to depth itself can form. With the sun and the moon eclipsed here, you will feel pulled inward. Those old emotional bonds, the financial agreements, the patterns of merging reach a point of reckoning. And they'll just dissolve. They'll just release. And what no longer carries life force here is ready to be composted. Mars is also in your 8th house. This is adding urgency to this process. So you might feel a need to confront what's been avoided, especially around money, debt, inheritance, or emotional power dynamics. This will feel intense, but it's clarifying. Action taken now should be deliberate and conscious, not reactive, because movement helps metabolize what is surfacing. You also have Pluto finishing your 7th house, moving into your 8th house, keeping relationships as the catalyst. So partnerships are acting as mirrors, revealing where power has been uneven or where truth has been withheld. This isn't necessarily inherently destructive, but it's brutally honest. And bonds that can hold that honesty deepen. Others will transform or complete. Jupiter is retrograde in your 1st house, bringing reflective growth. Your identity is quietly reorienting, but without outward announcement. Also, watch the weight gain here as Jupiter moves through your 1st house. 5 to 15 pounds can happen as Jupiter expands your body. With Venus, North Node, Mercury, and Neptune, and Saturn all here in your 9th house, wow, your belief systems are completely being reoriented. And this is where the alchemy happens. Old philosophies that you had will soften. Certainty around beliefs will dissolve. Saturn is asking for discernment, and Neptune is loosening the rigid meanings. Mercury reframes the understanding, and Venus guides by resonance. So the future path emerges through lived experience rather than inherited ideology here. The South Node in your third house releases mental noise and compulsive communication. You're going to feel less interested in explaining or narrating anything. Silence becomes instructive here for you, Gemini rising. You're going to have Black Moon Lilith in your sixth house, exposing where daily routines or work structures have overridden your instinct. Your body becomes the truth teller now. So what doesn't feel good, you need to break out of that habit. Chiron in your 10th will highlight vulnerability around visibility and authority. So healing comes through redefining success in a way that feels humane and embodied. And Uranus in your 11th house, this is the disruption we've been talking about. The future plans, the group affiliations you had, community shifts are inevitable, but they're going to align you more honestly with where you're going. So some possible manifestations for you this month, Gemini rising, is deep emotional and financial clearing, complete renegotiation of shared resources, an intensified need for intimacy and privacy, I should say, questioning long-held beliefs, and a quieter but more grounded sense of the self. Some remedies for this moon for you is to address shared finances and emotional bonds consciously, allow solitude without feeling guilty, move the body to release any stored tension that you have, and loosen the need for certainty here. Things are going to fall away and you can't explain it right now. Just trust the process of inner transformation. Gemini rising. Hello, Taurus rising. Beautiful, sensual, earthy Taurus energy. Venus is our chart ruler. I'm a Taurus rising. The last new moon was in our 8th house. This felt like a rock bottom energy, kind of like going through the darkest part of our chart in terms of the lunation. But now it's moved into our 9th house alongside Mars. So there's a profound recalibration of meaning, direction, public orientation. This is going to be a reset of how we understand our own life, our purpose, and the beliefs we have been carrying forward, sometimes without realizing they were no longer even alive for us anymore. So right now, the stories that once gave us meaning feel very thin. Not wrong, just insufficient. Mars here brings an urgency and an energy, and we feel compelled to act in alignment with what we actually believe, not what we've been taught to defend. So if restlessness or irritation show up, it's often because an old worldview no longer fits the body that we're inhabiting. We still have Pluto in our 8th house, finishing that transit. So this is not a theoretical shift here. Our beliefs are tied to power, trust, and entanglement. We're becoming aware of how certain philosophies kept us bound to obligation, fear, or survival-based dynamics. Releasing them is visceral. It's happening in the gut, not in our mind. Uranus in our 12th house makes the awakening quiet. Insights will arrive through dreams, sleepiness, moments of withdrawal, or sudden clarity that cannot be explained yet. We don't need to rush action because awareness itself is doing the work, but this is where the rupture comes in. This is why the beliefs are changing, because deep down in the subconscious, we know there's something bigger. We know there's something more. Jupiter retrograde in our 2nd house is blessing us, asking us to reassess worth, compensation, how we resource ourselves. Growth will come from alignment, not accumulation, and money simply becomes a mirror for the values. The South Node in the 4th house releases inherited emotional patterns and family expectations that no longer support who we're becoming. Safety is being redefined from the inside out. And we have Black Moon Lilith in our 7th house. Relational truth sharpens here. We are less willing to compromise or accommodate at the cost of integrity. Again, here with partnerships, curiosity is key. No blame game here. Ask the simple questions and respond instead of react. So partnerships will meet us honestly without distortion if we come at it curiously. Chiron in our 11th house brings healing around our belonging and our contribution. Old wounds around community or visibility may surface, not to isolate us, but to help us find our rightful place in the collective. So, fellow Taurus rising, some possible manifestations here might be questioning long-held beliefs or life directions, the desire to speak, teach, or study from lived experience, shifts in career focus or public role, clearer relational boundaries, and the increased need for solitude and reflection. Some remedies for this moon: allow beliefs to evolve without defensiveness. Listen closely to dreams and subtle body signals. Align your career choices with your lived values. And don't forget to renew finances in relation to purpose, right? What are you spending your money on? Does it align with you anymore? Release those family expectations that limit your growth. You don't have to go to Christmas. You don't have to go to Thanksgiving. This Alchemist Moon is transforming how we orient our lives. Meaning becomes embodied when the truth is lived, not believed. Taurus rising. Hello, Aries rising. Too hot to handle. Mars is your chart ruler, and this lunation is happening in your 10th house, along with Mars and Pluto also in your 10th house. So this is a powerful recalibration for you guys in terms of your direction, your authority, and your public identity. This eclipse in the 10th house, joined by Mars and Pluto, this is an alchemical reset of purpose itself. The way that you lead, build, and are reorganized and recognized in the world is changing at a foundational level. With Mars in the 10th, there's a strong drive to act, assert, and move forward professionally. It's about alignment, not ambition here. You are going to feel pressure to take responsibility for a role that truly fits, or frustration where effort has been poured into structures that no longer reflect your values. This moon demands integrity in leadership. Pluto at the very top of your chart will deepen this transformation. Old definitions of success, authority, or expertise are dissolving. Beliefs about who you are allowed to be publicly may shift. This is not a collapse. This is a consolidation of power. What remains after this process is quieter, but far more durable. Uranus in your first house keeps identity fluid. You may feel restless with familiar ways of presenting yourself. Sudden insights about who you're becoming can arrive without warning. And this isn't instability. This is awakening at the level of self-perception. Venus, North Node, Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune are all in your 11th house. This is where the alchemy comes in. We're orienting toward future community, collaboration, and shared vision. Your path forward isn't solitary. You need networks, you need allies, and a collective purpose. All that matters now. And Saturn asks for discernment around who you build with, while Neptune dissolves unrealistic expectations. Mercury here helps clarify the communication, and Venus aligns you with the values based on these connections. And the North Node points towards contribution rather than personal conquest. So Aries rising, the South Node in your 5th house, will release old patterns around performance, validation, or creative self-centering. You are no longer meant to lead through ego or applause. Expression becomes more intentional and less performative. Now that Black Moon Lilith in your 8th house, this is where you're being asked to have curiosity. So shadow work around power, intimacy, and shared resources. You will feel less willing to avoid the difficult conversations anymore. Not that you did before, but now it really doesn't matter, especially when it's around trust or dependency. Chiron in your 12th house is highlighting deep healing around unconscious wounds and spiritual fatigue. So rest, retreat, and inner listening are essential now. This is where old battles finally dissolve. So Aries rising, some possible manifestations for you are shifts in career direction or leadership roles, very possible here. questioning old definitions of success. You have this desire to collaborate differently, and that's where your alchemy lives, because your identity is restless and it's changing. You're also going to have a need for solitude alongside that public responsibility. So some remedies for this moon is to act with integrity rather than urgency. Release those outdated ambitions. Let them go. Feel the freedom. Choose your collaborators carefully. Allow rest to support long-term strength, and trust the quiet reshaping of purpose here. The Alchemist Moon is refining how you lead and where you're going. And your authority grows from alignment, not force, Aries rising. Last but not least, you mystical creature, Pisces rising. This new moon eclipse initiates a subtle but profound transformation for you around the energies of belonging, identity, and inner orientation. Saturn and Neptune are literally sitting on your ascendant or first house, and Chiron is also in your first house. This alone tells me that you are standing at the threshold. The old self has been dissolving for some time now, and it's taking shape again, not as an image here, but as an embodied presence. With Saturn on your ascendant, there's a call to maturity and grounding. And with Neptune there's a simultaneous softening of the edges and identities. And together they ask you to inhabit yourself with compassion and responsibility at the same time. Chiron in the first brings awareness to long-held wounds about being seen, existing, or even taking up space. This lunation, this eclipse, this moon is not asking you to fix yourself. It's asking you to stay present with who you are becoming. This 11th house eclipse alongside Mars and Pluto, this is the alchemy, the reset of community, future vision, and collective engagement. You will feel shifts around friendships, groups, and even long-term goals. Power dynamics within communities become clearer. Mars brings urgency and Pluto brings the truth. So this isn't about withdrawing from the world. It's about choosing where your energy truly belongs. Uranus in your second house brings instability around money, values, and self-worth. So here's the disruption. You are going to feel less attached to conventional measures of security. New ways of resourcing yourself can emerge suddenly, often tied to authenticity rather than predictability. Jupiter in your fourth house brings reflective growth around home, emotional roots, and inner nourishment. You will feel drawn inward. You will reassess what safety truly means, and growth comes from tending to that inner world and leaning on those closest to you. The South Node in your sixth house releases patterns over service, self-sacrifice, and even martyrdom. You are no longer meant to prove your worth through exhaustion. Black Moon Lilith in your ninth house challenges inherited belief systems. This is where you get to be curious. What do I believe and why? Put it under a microscope with curious compassion. You will feel less willing to accept spiritual or philosophical narratives that bypass lived truth. Wisdom becomes embodied rather than idealized here. Venus, North Node, Mercury in your 12th. This future path unfolds quietly for you. Love, meaning, and direction are guided by your intuition, dreams, and your subtle knowing. Not a cycle for visibility. It is a cycle for deep listening, Pisces rising. So some possible manifestations will be shifts in friendships or group affiliations, big desire to withdraw from overstimulation, identity softening or even redefinition, changes in values or income patterns, the rupture, and an increased sensitivity and intuitive insight. Some remedies for this moon will be to protect your energetic boundaries, okay? Allow rest and solitude without feeling guilty. Listen to your dreams and your intuitive signals like you always do, and choose communities consciously. Release the need to overfunction. This Alchemist Moon is reshaping how you belong. You do not need to disappear to be true. You need to be present in your own becoming, Pisces rising. All right, beautiful souls, that concludes the reading for this new moon, this solar eclipse on February 17th. Remember, something's going to shift unexpectedly, And you need to listen to your body. You need to listen to your heart. You need to turn off that television. You need to stop the death scrolls, because what they're trying to feed you right now, they're harvesting your loosh. They do that during times of chaos. And it's your turn. It's your time. You are the alchemist. And this is the Alchemist Moon. So thank you so much for listening. If you found this content useful or helpful, please share it. Please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're lurking, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Namaste.